Hey all, Danielle and I are in mid-conversation. I told Danielle I want to take today off, kind of relax a little bit, but no, we can't because we have an alleged pedophile as the commander-in-chief engaging what I will clearly say yet again. I've said it before, and I think today, with the information that we have out, and we're going to talk about it, is the biggest political cover-up in modern history. And I'm talking about the Epstein saga.
Yep.
First and foremost, before we get to the most sordid, disgusting, filthy, vile details, this is the United States of America. Of course it is. Powerful, wealthy, billionaire men helping each other rape girls, allegedly. This is America. Before we get to the ugliness of it all, I talk about how it affects us, truth, justice, law and order, MAGA, elected officials, Trump, the Justice Department. I have to say, happy belated birthday to Danielle Moody. She is a fellow Scorpio like me. The reason why we didn't do Democracy-ish on Mondays because unlike me, she's not a masochist. And she goes, I want to celebrate my life and my birth. And I saw a photo and you were like, they were feeding you and taking you out and you had the makeup shake up on and you were having a good time. You had a big smile. And Danielle, she could be anywhere from 30 years old to 87 because black doesn't crack. So everyone take a guess how old Danielle is. I know the age. When I found out, I was like, what? And Danielle's like, yes. I'm like, what? I thought she was like 31. But that's why black don't crack. The way world work, black women in America get like beaten down the worst, but then God and the universe says, I'll make sure you age like just immaculately. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Danielle, who could be 30 or 87. We don't know because black don't crack. Happy birthday to you. Danielle, before we get to the
Thank
ugly,
you.
how was your birthday week?
My birthday was fantastic. I really enjoyed taking Monday off, so thank you for that, Waj. Yeah, it was great. Look, I am a big birthday person, so it's like your birthday, it's your day. You should take the day off. You should enjoy it. I know people that don't like to celebrate their birthday. I don't understand that. It's your day out of 365. So I got to celebrate with my loved ones and it was wonderful. So
What was
thank
your
you.
best gift that you got?
Well, my best gift was my time. But my girlfriend, because fun fact about me, I love spy, espionage, heist type of movies and like books and things like that. And she took me to Spyscape
Oh
in
yeah,
New
yeah.
York City, which is fun for kids and adults, where you get to like go through the different agility tests and like whatever to see what kind of spy you would be. And it was fantastic. We had the best time. So
What type
that
of
was
spy are you?
I am a surveillance officer, meaning
Mm.
that I pay attention to everything and everyone around me and can break things down very easily.
Oh, that's really good. That makes a lot of sense. I would be the spy. I've always thought about this. You ever see those Bourne movies? Remember
Yeah.
that like person who has the information and the cachet and the file, and he calls up Jason Bourne and says, "I have it. Meet me in the train terminal." And right before he exchanges the files, like a hitman just kills him. I'd be that guy. I'd be
The one
dead.
that gets killed?
The one who understands everything and tries to warn people, but no one believes him, and then he just gets shot and dies. And then like
Hilarious.
that's me. That's who I'd
Meanwhile,
be.
I think that I would be the person that compiled the files and like did the handoff. That would be me.
Yeah, you'd be the person who hands it off to me, and then you'd be smart enough to be like, "Peace out. I'm going like undercover in Portugal and surviving," and I'm like, "No, no, no. The people must know," and then I'd die. But this is why we make a good team. And Danielle and I have decided to do our midweek check-in for Democracy-ish. For those who don't know, Democracy-ish is Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, on Danielle's fantabulous YouTube channel that you should all subscribe to. And it's also on Damn Digest and The Left Hook. So if you're on Substack right now, you're watching us on Substack, please subscribe. We're
Yeah.
terrible capitalists. Everything is for free. And I wake up today, Danielle. I was
Mm-mm.
thinking about taking a kind of a chill day.
Yep.
But of course, the House Oversight Committee releases drip, 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 more extremely damning information and emails that show the complicity, and I would say my word, the cover up, that is the Epstein saga. And then the Republicans just released some more information, but we're digging through it right now. Caroline Levitt, Bimbo Barbie,
Bimbo
uh, uh,
Barbie,
uh,
bobblehead Barbie.
oh, she's gonna have a tough week. She's gonna have a tough week because they were asking her questions and then she was trying to lie and say, "Oh, this is just a hoax, hoax, hoax." And I don't know if you saw, but even Donald Trump now, folks, there's a lot of information. So we're gonna just go through
Yeah,
it bit by bit. Donald Trump, he's freaked out because he went on his broke down Twitter
yep,
Truth Social, and now he's calling a hoax. I'll tell you all what he said. About an hour ago, Trump calls the Epstein child sex trafficking ring the quote Jeffrey Epstein hoax, tells Republicans to focus on other things. I will quote him. The Democrats are trying to bring up the Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into the trap. Democrats cost your country, blah, 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 blah. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republican involved should be focused only on opening our country and fixing the massive damage by the Democrats. Now, that's very interesting. Why
mhm,
is he saying that? Because we also have confirmation that the White House is planning a meeting, this was from 2 hours ago, with
yep,
Lauren Boebert, a Republican who said she wants the Justice Department to release the trove of Epstein files. They also are pressuring Nancy Mace, who
yep,
also, well, said that she would, but let's see what happens now. And furthermore, um, all these emails, Michael Wolff is involved in these emails. We'll talk about that. All of them are suggesting from 2016 that Epstein had compromising information on Donald Trump. Ghislaine Maxwell was in this as well. These emails show that Trump had partied with Epstein and girls. One of these girls is most likely Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide, whose book came out recently, and she alleged Andrew. I call him Andrew now because of the allegation in the book. He's no longer a prince. Also, Danielle, there was a prime minister who she said assaulted her and
yep,
beat her. And now this has all been in the open. We've talked about it. The photos of Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, who was literally photos of him entering the Epstein mansion in New York, multiple engagements. All these powerful billionaires, Leon Black, Leslie Wexner, among others. And furthermore, the main man behind is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, let me just set the stage real quick and I'm going to give it to you just so we have a timeline, right? Michael Wolff has said, based upon his interviews that he has with Jeffrey Epstein, he's compiled, like he said, I just interviewed him a couple of days ago before this all came out, hundreds of hours of with interviews with Epstein, where Epstein said Donald Trump was his closest friend. Specifically, the time frame was the 90s. In the 90s, and Michael was on a couple of days ago, I think 2 or 3 days ago, he said in the 90s, what they did was chasing models. Chasing models was where it's at. And specifically, models was a reflection on your virility, on your popularity. That's what you used to do in the 90s. So Epstein and Donald Trump, very close. Donald had a nickname for Epstein. They chased models. I asked Michael again, what were the ages of the models? Ages 14 to 19. Okay. Epstein and him were thick as thieves. We saw the photos, we saw the videos. They partied together. But not only Trump, Melania Trump. We still don't know about how Melania Trump knew Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know a lot about Melania Trump, folks. And Melania Trump, met with Donald Trump, and Wolf alleges that Epstein told him that the first time Melania Trump and Donald Trump had sex was on
on his
Epstein's
plane.
private jet, the Lolita Express. Just
Yep,
disgusting. Now, timeline. Wall Street Journal, oh, that flaming progressive leftist rag run by Muslims and socialists. Remember that? In the summer, did the bombshell that Donald Trump was one of the many powerful, influential people who submitted a lewd drawing and a very cryptic letter for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book that Ghislaine Maxwell was compiling. Donald Trump threatened folks before this was about to release.
yep,
I keep the receipts. Well, it was leaked that Wall Street Journal was going to publish this. That day leading up to the publication, Trump worked the phones, threatened them. Wall Street Journal said, no, we're going to stick by our reporting. Wall Street Journal publishes it. Trump sues them. Then what do we get? The actual book. And then we see all the photos, and it's disgusting. As this is happening, the Wall Street Journal also reports that Pam Bondi told Donald Trump back in the spring that he's all up in the files. Donald Trump then publicly lies to people about that.
Hmm.
Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and the Republicans promised that they would release the Epstein files. Why? Because they've been radicalizing their base for a decade over QAnon, child sex trafficking. Epstein files are the Rosetta Stone. They'll prove everything. Then, whoopsie, they get access to it, and all of a sudden, Kash Patel is like, nothing to see here, guys. It's all good. And Dan Bongino becomes quiet as a mouse fart. And remember, Pam Bondi says, I have the Epstein files right here. Oh, no,
She paraded in the MAGA influencers who she handed them the
allegedly.
binders to, allegedly handed them the binders. They walk out of the White House, right, with these binders that say Epstein files on them, and they're holding them up. And what was inside was absolutely fucking nothing.
Yep. And so now we're keeping with the timeline, right? Then we find out Allison Gill was the first to break it. Then CBS confirmed it that there is a special unit of the FBI that was tasked to review these documents and redact or scrub out Donald Trump's name. But they're so incompetent that they were all sharing the same Excel sheet. And anyone within that FBI department who was tasked with this could have access to it. So now we have whistleblowers, right?
Right.
And furthermore, CBS reported that the Epstein murder site, suicide site, was just a friggin' warehouse of every single type of incompetence. Like they had the 70 photos that got released last month that showed, like, mishandling of evidence. The guards who were literally had one job: make sure this mother effer doesn't kill himself. All of a sudden, their eye was off the radar for a second. They weren't interviewed. Okay, as all this is happening, Virginia Giuffre, as this is happening, Ghislaine Maxwell then is met with Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche is
Yep.
Donald Trump's personal attorney, who's now in the Attorney General's office. Never this happened. No one from the Attorney General's office then leaves D.C. to go interview Ghislaine Maxwell. Who should have been interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell? The special prosecutor. Who is a special prosecutor? Maureen Comey. Why didn't Maureen Comey interview her? Because he fired her a few days before. So now Todd Blanche goes, and then less than a week later, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was serving a
is
20-year.
moved is moved to where? Minimum security prison. And what's been reported since her removal into this minimal security prison? That she's being waited on hand and foot. She has special visitors that are coming to see her that are not being logged into the system, right? So we don't know who those people are. When she has these visitors, what happens to the other prisoners? They are remanded to their rooms, locked in, right? So that no one can see or leak who she's being visited by. Okay. So, I mean, this is, somebody posted it in the chat and said, this is the cover up of the millennium. Like,
Absolutely.
this is the cover up of the millennium. And I have to say, because one, you have all of these Republicans that have been working in lockstep. Something tells me that if Jeffrey Epstein had lived, right, wasn't, in my belief, murdered, that if he had lived, one, you would he probably would have ended up acquitted. And the reason is because of the incompetence of the Trump administration in his first term that didn't do any of the things that they needed to do in order to have a clean case. That unless he was also going to be facing state charges in New York where his mansion was, etc., and these girls were coming in through, that he probably would have ended up being acquitted of the federal charges, one, because Donald Trump wouldn't want his own name to come out, but two, because of the incompetency that we now hear about that happened under his Bill Barr Department of Justice. Go
Well,
ahead.
who visited Epstein before he died?
4 days before he died.
Bill Barr. And
Bill Barr.
who was the guy, who was the man who gave Jeffrey Epstein a dropout, a cushy job as a teacher at a cushy, prep school? Bill Barr's
Bill Barr's
father.
dad.
Yep. So there's a lot of folks here, and I want to just, and also some more news. Adelita Grijalva won her election nearly 2 months ago. Apparently, she'll be sworn in today. We
At
don't know.
4.
Adelita Grijalva said that she would give the 218th vote. Even during the shutdown, they could have sworn her in. She got elected before the shutdown. They still didn't swear her in. Now, more stuff. Just to let you all know. I'm reading from the New York Times. Trove of emails released on Wednesday by lawmakers include numerous references to Trump. Among them, House Democrats highlighted 3 emails between Epstein and his associates suggesting that Trump might have been more aware of Epstein's conduct than he has
Yep.
privately acknowledged. Caroline Levitt called it a quote, clear distraction. In 2011, Epstein emails Ghislaine Maxwell about a victim he claims Trump met at his house. Epstein tells Maxwell, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Dot, dot, dot. The victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once mentioned police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. And Maxwell said, I have been thinking about that, which means Maxwell also lied then
Yep.
to Todd Blanche when she said, oh, no, I never saw Trump with girls. All right. Uh, Epstein was emerging from his legal troubles. He got the sweetheart deal, right? Disgusting. All these people still partied with him, even though he got that sweetheart deal that no one else has that allowed him to essentially stay out of jail for 6 out of 7 days of the week and continue grooming and raping girls. All right. When Epstein sent the email in April 2011, Miss Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre, had recently gone public for the first time about her experiences with Epstein, telling a British tabloid that he had abused her and trafficked her to other men and provided the outlet with the now famous photo of herself, Prince Andrew, and Miss Maxwell. 14 years ago. They knew
Mhm.
about this 14 years ago. Just think,
Mhm.
this should infuriate everyone. 2015, Epstein and Michael Wolff strategize around a Trump media experience. Michael Wolff says, okay, Jeffrey says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? To Michael Wolff. Michael says, I think you should let Trump hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say, Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in the Trump regime. This is 12/16/2015 when Donald Trump was running for office. Now, before we continue, I do want to ask you about this. Uh,
Mhm.
as I said, I interviewed Michael. I think I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times. Each time I ask him, why not just release all the files? You have allegedly 100 hours of conversation, release it. I've never been pleased with this answer. I don't think anyone else has as well. I interviewed him, I think, just 3 or 4 days ago, folks. Had this come out, I would have asked Michael, and I emailed him, by the way, folks. I don't have his text, but I emailed him right after I saw this. Let's talk about this. And I would have asked him, Michael, it seems that you are now advising
You're an
Jeffrey Epstein.
accomplice. You're an
Yeah,
accomplice. You're not a journalist. You're an accomplice.
your
And
take
I
on
think
that.
that this is what we need to understand now, because over the course of the last 10 years under Trumpism, we have witnessed those that have been around Donald Trump, whether they were in his cabinet, whether they were journalists that were covering him for books of their own, always hold on to the most pertinent information so that they can make a buck off of it. Okay. Wolf is not the only person that did that, right? Who is the other person, Waj, who sat down with Donald Trump around COVID and didn't tell us until his book came out that, oh, by the way, Donald Trump said that COVID was more lethal than the common flu? Bob Woodward, right? Bob Woodward, whose claim to fame was Nixon and Watergate and Deep Throat and being the standard of journalistic integrity, but hung on to information that was pertinent to the American public about this person who is now the president of the United States in his first term, about what he knew about a fucking global health pandemic that would kill 1 million Americans. Bob Woodward hung on to for a fucking New York Times bestseller, right? And a cash advance from publishers. That's what he did. So Mike Wolf, right, is doing the same fucking thing. oh, when is it going to be the most optimal time for me, my brand, my pocket, in order for me to release the rest of this information? These are not altruistic people. These are not people who operate as the fourth estate, a check on power and government. That is not their role anymore. Their role is to make as much money, be deemed as influencers, sell fucking books, right? And like go and have their own private jets, have their own mansions and islands, and be able to rub shoulders with the rich and the powerful and the celebrities, et cetera, et cetera. And so my belief is that Michael Wolff is waiting for like either the government to finally be forced to release the files with this discharge petition, and then he gives an exclusive worth, I'm certain, millions of dollars to whatever outlet for the rest of the audio tapes, because this is what he's holding on to is audio, right? And that is something that is really, really valuable in the kind of world that we are living in. So this, to me, always comes back to fucking greed, and the fact that now, if we had an actual Department of Justice, right, that was actually a department for the people, I would be hauling Mike Wolff's ass in as a suspect and an accomplice to this larger cover-up. But because we know that they are working overtime to protect the pedophile in chief, which is Donald Trump, because I'm telling you, if this was a motherfucking hoax, right, he wouldn't be running as scared as he is. If this was a motherfucking hoax, they wouldn't have shut down the government for over 40 days. If this were a motherfucking hoax, right, they wouldn't have had a special department set up, like you said, to track Donald Trump's names in the file in an Excel fucking spreadsheet. Like, the reality is that if Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert and the other two, and Tom Massey, and I don't know who the fourth Republican is, but if they change their minds on this, we know that they have been pressured by this White House. And the pressure is not because it's a hoax, it's because this is, if I swear to God, Wash, if pedophilia is not the fucking issue that drives this man out of our lives as Americans, if pedophilia is now a line that we can fucking cross, my God. I do believe that we all died in 2020 and this is fucking hell. Because if you can make excuses for the president of the United States to ever have been alone in a room with a fucking 14-year-old girl, right? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. What is a grown fucking man doing alone in a room with a girl in a mansion that is known to traffic pedophilia? There is no excuse. And that is why they cannot release these files, because they know that they they are at the cliff of this shit right now, because there is not a Republican that I want to believe that there isn't a Republican, but we know how disgusting these people are, how grotesque they are in order to have their proximity to power, right? In order to have their proximity to Donald Trump, which has allowed them to have fame and to have money and resources, etc. If their constituents find out the truth about who Donald Trump is, why Donald Trump had Teen USA, Miss Universe, why Donald Trump told us, well, when I'm a star, they let you do whatever you want. You can grab them by the pussy. You know who this man is because he has told you his entire life who he is and what he's about. Gold toilets, fucking blonde women, blonde girls, right? And doing whatever the fuck it is that he wants because he is rich and he is a celebrity. And he had Teen USA and he said, oh, they let you just walk into the dressing rooms, ha ha ha, because I own the pageant. And America laughed along with that. You know why? Because we value women and girls so little in this country that we have always been a punchline. It's why it takes 50, 60 women to come out to bring down one fucking man and you never believe them the first time around.
Amen. But sadly, in response to your question and your assertion that, will this be the thing that'll bring him down? Danielle, they've known. They've known about this.
Yep.
Pam Bondi knows about this. Kash Patel knows about this. Dan Bongino knows about this. Super Christian Mike Johnson knows about this. There's only one reason why you would not swear in Adelita Grijalva, the Democrat who won in Arizona, is because you do not even want to bring up the vote in August because we're bringing receipts. I want you all to remember that Mike Johnson did an early recess, then even try to bring up the vote and even have the votes at that time, right? He says, no, 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 we'll just shut down the House. And then the Republicans went and met Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, right? We've had the shutdown right now. Folks, they've known about this, which makes it worse. Nothing has been hidden. Donald Trump openly partied with Epstein. Donald Trump openly chased models. Donald Trump and Epstein had model agencies. Donald Trump had the Miss Teen USA. The pageants, who were girls at the time, teenagers, said that this creepy man, Donald Trump, used to come in their dressing room. Donald Trump has been accused by 24 women of sexual assault. Donald Trump has been held liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. He has been held liable for defaming E. Jean Carroll. He said, grab women by the pee, they let you do it. Right? This is who he has always been. And America said, yes, more, please, more. And all these super Christians and all these white evangelicals say he's but a flawed instrument. So, to answer that question in the most cynical way, will America tolerate it? It has, yes.
I have to say this because you're reminding me, right? I said that there was no line, that pedophilia should be the line for Republicans. But we also have to understand what runs rampant inside of white evangelical Christian circles. Pedophilia. Case in point, Pastor Robert Morris, right? The
Spiritual advisor.
former spiritual advisor to Donald Trump. What happened to him most recently this year? Was that he was arrested, right, and convicted for raping a 12-year-old girl in the 1980s, right? That he was arrested and convicted. Spiritual advisor, Robert Morris, white evangelical Christian. The reason why white evangelical Christian dumb, right, is all about the suppression and oppression of women, and why you have these red states that wanted to roll back the laws around when it's acceptable for girls to consent and to get married and all of these things, and they're rolling back these protections. It's because inside of that fucking disgusting religion breeds pedophilia, breeds the oppression and the submission of girls and women. And that is the connection. That is the thread. So the Mike Johnson, Mr. Religion, right? It is about the submission of girls and women to these men that then turn around and abuse them in the name of fucking God. Right? That they look to Donald Trump and they say he's an imperfect tool of God to advance their other issues like abortion and gay marriage and this, that, and the other thing. But what connects them, folks, what connects them is pedophilia, right? Because it is rampant inside of that religion.
I would say even sexual abuse. Look at Pete Hegseth. Look at all the abusers. Look at the Epstein saga. Look at the Donald Trump. Look at all the men who see women as just simply debased instruments for their pleasure, right? Dehumanizing them. When Donald Trump was asked about the fallout with Epstein, he said he stole property from me. What was the property he was referring to? Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre, a teenager who was working at Mar-a-Lago because her father was a manager at Mar-a-Lago, and Ghislaine Maxwell saw her reading a book and approached her and then literally groomed her, took her to Jeffrey Epstein, where she was passed around her words, Virginia Giuffre's words, like a platter of fruit. And Donald Trump, when asked about Virginia Giuffre, saw her as property. And I think that's very telling. This is how they view women, as simply their subordinate pleasure tools, women who will birth their children, the future knights, the crusaders that will redeem the world, right? When it comes to all extremist organizations, one common thread that is often ignored is misogyny.
Yep.
All of them say that there is a natural order and men are at the top. And if you think I'm making all this up, folks, Pete Hegseth, right, his Christ Church that he openly promotes, when CNN did a 6-minute, 7-minute segment on this church that, literally he follows that church. He reposted that entire segment with a favorable comment. And in that segment, the leaders said that they're against the 19th Amendment and women are subordinate to men. They're open about it, right? And as such, this is how they view women. This is how they view girls, right? They are simply, yet again, another, if you will, instrument for their vulgarity and their appetites. It is disgusting. The really interesting aspect of all of this is that Donald Trump is freaking out and publicly pressuring. I want to ask publicly pressuring Republicans. Here's what Caroline Levitt said. CBS News asked her, "Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?" Levitt, "These emails prove nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong." Another reporter asked, "What was the president doing with Virginia Giuffre for hours at Epstein's house?" You know what she did? She walked off. She walked off. Why, oh, why are they now scheduling a meeting with Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert? Why, oh, why did they spend 6 weeks not swearing in Adelita Grijalva? Why, oh, why did they not release the Epstein files even after a judge said the DOJ can release the Epstein files? Why, oh, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in a minimum security camp when a person of her status as a child molester and sex trafficker cannot get that type of transfer? Who at the Bureau of Prisons was told to allow her to be removed from Florida, where she was serving her 20-year sentence for being a child sex trafficker, to Texas? Another sweetheart deal that only Virginia Giuffre has gone. People with her status cannot be moved, right? The Bureau of Prisons went in, Danielle, and someone said, for you, we'll make this exception. And not only that, as you said, Danielle, while she is there, more reports have come out as of this week that people are sick and tired of waiting for her on hand and foot. She has a service puppy. She gets meals. She gets special treatment. And now they're saying that she is looking to commute her sentence because
Yep.
if I'm her, Danielle, and I'm thinking, well, if Donald Trump just pardoned CZ of Binance, and if he pardoned George Santos, well, why wouldn't he pardon me? I ain't going to spend 20 years of my life in jail, especially when I got the goods on him. And I'm really curious. I emailed Michael right after this came out today. I said, hey, you're in this. You want to talk about it? I am curious to ask him if he is using, because I agree with you. Let's just be honest. Wolf, Woodward, this entire milieu of corporate media, this is what they do. They hold on to these juicy facts and they use it to sell their books, but it comes at such a detriment to justice, law, truth, accountability, right? At the same time, though, I am very curious if Michael, much like Glenn, realize that they have the goods. And this is an insurance, not just for, a nest egg, but this is also an insurance for their safety. I'm very curious to ask him that, number one. And I am curious because I do think it's unethical, but I am curious if he saw Epstein as an instrument to take out what he thinks is the bigger fish, which is Donald Trump. I'm not saying that this is right, but I am very curious. I would love to ask him if he ever agrees to do an interview with me again. And I just realized, because time is a flat circle, Danielle, I remember I said I had interviewed Michael Wolff like last week. No, just 2 days ago. 2 days feels like 2 weeks. And speaking about Michael Wolff, in 2019, the third email that House Democrats really wanted to cite was Epstein tells Wolff, quote, "Of course Trump, quote, knew about the girls." They redacted, this is Epstein to Michael Wolff. They redact the name of the victim, Mar-a-Lago, redact the name. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. By January 2019, Mr. Trump was in the White House and Mr. Epstein was back in the news. A series of Miami Herald articles, fantastic articles by Julie Brown, showed that he received light treatment from prosecutors years earlier, including from Alex Acosta, who later became Trump's labor secretary. Mr. Epstein's schedule showed he had continued to meet with Mr. Wolff, who has said he said in some of the unreleased recorded interviews that Steve Bannon, a former Trump advisor, had conducted with Epstein. Soon after this email exchange, the Justice Department said it was investigating how Mr. Epstein's plea deal had been handled. Ugh.
Let's just say this, right? All of the people that are in Trump's orbit right now, inside of this administration, have all been rewarded for their silence with their positions. And what Donald Trump has done, I just want to make this real clear for folks right now, is now made them complicit in a cover up. So, to the extent that if you were to come out now, right, a Cash Patel and Acosta, all of these people, what's her face, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, if you were to come out now, you yourself can now be held liable, criminally liable for this cover up. So Donald Trump ropes you in with money, power, and status, right? Into his little sick fucking web. Wide eyed and excited, and look what I get to do, right? Then are now roped in, and it's like, oh, caveat, asterisk. If you ever now say that you knew, you are now part of the cover up and part of the scheme. So they all have, it's not just the protection of Donald Trump, right? It's now the protection of themselves, right? And their jobs, their ego, their power, their status that they've been able to get. And that's how Donald Trump's mob fucking criminal organization works, right? You think that you're coming in for one thing, you get roped in for the other, but because now you're so fucking deep in it, and I'm not saying this as a way to make these people seem like, oh, they're victims. No, no, no. But understand that the reason why they all hold and bite their tongues until they're bleeding is because now they are complicit. And there is no way for them to say that they do not know or never knew or what have you. And so, Ghislaine, so then to go to your point about Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine is about to play the biggest chip that she fucking has.
Of
Now,
course.
Donald Trump could say, well, I can disappear you. I can do this. I can do that. Not before I release everything it is that I have to say. She wants her freedom, right? Donald Trump wants her to shut the fuck up. So, and if he gives her her freedom, right, then he is almost certainly now convinced America I am indeed a pedophile, because there is no way on God's green earth that you let that woman walk free and you think that people are just going to believe that, oh, she was just given a raw deal, when we know what she has been a part of, what she was the architect of. But if she doesn't get released, she has no reason not at some point when all of this it comes out to be like, I'll give you the last bit of crumbs, right? Just keep me where I am and what have you, because at that point she'll have nothing left to lose, and that is a place that Donald Trump does not want Ghislaine Maxwell to be in, which is the place where she ain't got nothing left to lose.
I believe, because we like to keep receipts, he will pardon her. And the reason why I've been saying this for a while is a couple of weeks ago, when Donald Trump on camera in the White House was directly asked about invoking the Insurrection Act, he didn't say no. And then he was asked about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember that, folks?
Yep.
And he said, who? What? Haven't heard that name in a long time. Ghislaine what? Huh? Well, I guess I could, right? I mean, as the president, I guess I could. If I'm Donald Trump and if I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, well, let's say if I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, we know, and I asked Michael this, how could they have gotten the book, right? The 50th birthday book, Ghislaine's estate. And if she has that and she released it, which you know she did or someone in her estate did, imagine what else she has. And if I'm Ghislaine Maxwell and I see, like I said, CZ and Santos getting pardoned,
Yep.
why would I sit for 20 years in prison? I'm going to go for that commutation. I'm going to go for that pardon. And Donald Trump, the fact that, what he should have said, Danielle, was, Of course not. Glenn Maxwell. I don't know her. I don't know Jeffrey Epstein. Didn't they rape girls? I have nothing to do with that. I won't pardon her. No, no way. He didn't say that, folks. He didn't say that. So it is so bad that the cover up is happening in real time. And it's not even happening subtly. Usually you do a cover up under clandestine operations, right? Yeah, but they're doing it openly. Folks, they're literally calling a meeting right
At the
now
White House.
at the White House today, gathering Pam Bondi, JD Vance if he's in like shit posting on Twitter, Donald Trump, Boobert, Nancy Mace. He just sent out that True Social post that I read about an hour and a half ago, right? Straight up threatening Republicans. He said Republicans, right? I want to repeat this again. Democrats are trying to bring up the hoax. They'll do anything to deflect on how badly they've done. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country. That is a mob boss telling his soldiers to fall in line. And for those who say, well, I don't know, that's my take on this is they've all fell in line. They've all been complicit. They've all known since the spring. Bongino, Pam Bondi, Cash Patel,
Yep.
all of them, Mike
Yep.
Johnson, all of them. And to your point, they're all in. I've said for 10 years, MAGA and Republicans are going to go all the way up with Donald Trump, and they're going to go all the way down.
Yep.
The reason why they can no longer distance themselves, as Danielle said, is people will ask questions. When did you find out? How come
Mm-hmm.
you didn't tell the people? How come you still supported him? Right? And it was all there in front of you. So now with the conspiracy, there's only one way out. They got to go 10 toes down. They got to
Yep.
ride this to the end. And the problem for them is drip, 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 drip. It's all coming out. There's already a tranche of files that the House Democrats have given to them by the Epstein estate because Epstein's brother has said for the longest time that I don't think my brother killed myself. I think there's a conspiracy afoot. You also have the survivors now feeling more emboldened that people are finally listening to them for the first time in 20 years. They've said they're going to come out and speak, right? You see Donald Trump unraveling in the best way possible because he realizes he can't hold this. He can't contain this. It's all coming out drip, drip, drip. Like we said before, because they're so incompetent, the FBI, that unit in the FBI was given access to the Excel sheet, which means you better believe I will not be surprised, Danielle, if someone from the DOJ has this information as the whistleblower. Because we just got the whistleblower that just said, again, the whistleblower said that Maxwell is seeking a commutation. So even in the prison, you got whistleblowers. In the FBI, the people have seen these files and redacted. I'm sure there's whistleblowers, and they're so stupid. Edwin says, take a deep breath, Watch. I can't. I think fast. I talk fast, Edwin. This is how we roll. This is how we roll. We also found out the Project Veritas. Remember Project Veritas? Those MAGA sycophants? They had a honeypot video. Remember this? Where a Project Veritas, a young blonde white reporter, goes on a Hinge date with a dude from the DOJ. And on a Hinge date, this dude openly is telling her a Hinge date. She thinks on a
Yep.
date, she's recording him. Oh, yeah, essentially, yeah, they got the Epstein files and it's not going to be good. So they're just trying to like shut it down. So, folks, this is just a matter of when, not if. And I want you all to remember that Eric Swalwell a couple of weeks ago tweeted that a House Republican allegedly texted him and said that it's just a matter of when the Epstein files are released, and when they are, the entire house of cards will fall, and we're gonna be underneath it, right? I think they are stuck. And my fear, Danielle, is what will they do? What will a cornered rat do when he realizes his back is against the wall? He will chew through anything and
And
everything
anyone.
and anyone. Sorry for my rant.
No, I mean, it's the truth. Like, folks, you cannot take a deep breath about this because this is literally happening in real time. I'm scrolling through social media, waiting for like the updates, scrolling through New York Times, waiting on the
Start a
updates.
war. Danielle,
Um,
someone said blow up another boat, start a war. Correct.
I mean, because this is what they've been doing. It's wag the dog. Why do you think that they are like fucking around with Venezuela in the Caribbean Sea? The other big news that like most people are not covering is guess who stopped sharing right? Surveillance and intel with us. Our biggest ally, the UK, because they know that the operation that is happening in the Caribbean Sea is fucking illegal and they don't want any part of it.
And
You
they
have
don't
to
trust us.
understand all of this is tied to what can we do as this criminal operation, this quote unquote regime, in order to ensure that these files don't come out. This is their fucking Achilles cankle, as you say. This is the thing that will bring him down. Why? Because he radicalized his entire base around it, right? What was the thing? Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? I believe in facts, and I love the way that Waj continually connects all the dots. Waj, what was the two topics that Charlie Kirk was continuing to discuss before he was murdered?
Epstein, towards the end, he said it's time to release the Epstein files. And then also Israel, the war with Israel and Gaza.
So here is the thing. Charlie Kirk, a couple of months over the summer, met with Donald Trump, where Donald Trump told him to back away from the Epstein story on your shows. And he did so for roughly a week or so. And then his people, because again, you've been talking about the Epstein files and the deep state, and all of these people were making their fucking money off this shit, right? Cash Patel, 2023. Sitting on one of those manosphere podcasts talking about there's the deep state, and once we get in there, we're going to release these files, blah, 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 because it never occurred to them that the man that boasted about grabbing women by the pussy was like the one who they needed to cover up for. Like, it didn't occur to them that Donald Trump was that fucking pedophile, the kingpin that was in there. But I just have to say, when you look around this circle and the people who have been killed and or jailed, all of it is like 7 degrees of Epstein. It
Oh, yeah.
all comes back to fucking Epstein,
Yep.
right? And the other thing we've always talked about, Hillary Clinton told us about Donald Trump being Putin's puppet. You think that Putin doesn't know this information? You think that Putin ain't sitting on this shit waiting for like the optimal time, right? To be like, okay, you think that you're like the commander in chief. I got one better. I'm telling you that there are people outside and inside of this orbit that are just sitting and waiting for the right time to drop the last bombshell. And the other thing is, Donald Trump, I know his regime doesn't want him to know, is a lame duck. Donald Trump is a lame duck president, right? There is, unlike the belief system that Steve Bannon believes that there is some way around the Constitution and Donald Trump being able to run again in 2028. The only way that he runs again is if he invokes the Insurrection Act and he cancels elections, and all of these things he would do in order to stay in power, in order to hide from what? The Epstein files.
You know,
Because
well, another big piece of news that came out just a couple of days ago, Drop Site News, showed leaked emails revealed Epstein working on a wire transfer to Ehud Barak's top aide, Yoni Koren, who regularly stayed at his apartment. And that foreign trail is not like oh, this is just like, conspiracy theories. Oh, no, no. Alex Acosta allegedly said that the reason why Epstein was given a sweetheart deal is because he was intelligence. And specifically, intelligence for who? What countries, right? So Israel is a country that has been mentioned. Russia's the other country that has been mentioned, right? Because if he had all this compromise on so many people, if you were a foreign government, or I don't know, if you were the U.S. government, wouldn't you want that information, right? Ehud Barak showed up at his apartment many times. Now we know, according to the leaked email, thanks to Drop Site News from this just a day ago, his top aide regularly stayed at his apartment. Huh, interesting. We know Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who died mysteriously, an expert swimmer who just found drowned in the water next to his boat, right, is buried in the Mount of Olives. Totally corrupt man who got his money through fraud, also working intelligence, right? So you have foreign countries, you have allegedly prime ministers, you have billionaires. Some of the billionaires that were named or alleged are again still alive. Leon Black, for example, Leslie Wexner, Glenn Dubin, among others, right? Virginia Giuffre names only Andrew, Prince Andrew, but there's these other names where if you just connect the dots and follow the money trail, it's all out there, Danielle, right? The
Yep.
question is like Leslie Wexner, why, oh, why? No one's ever answered this question. Leslie Wexner, you're a billionaire, you're a very smart person.
Mhm.
Why did you give your prime real estate, the jewel of New York, the $70 million townhouse where apparently these girls
Mhm.
were raped, as a gift to Jeffrey Epstein? I'm sure you liked him, but enough to give him a $70 million townhouse as a gift? Leon Black, you're a brilliant man, a billionaire, very powerful. The emails that were released last month in the New York Times. Why did you allow Jeffrey Epstein to mock you, ridicule you, seemingly blackmail you for money, mock your children? How come you sought this college dropout's advice to the tune of millions upon millions of dollars when you could have gotten better advice for a fraction of the cost with people who are, more well trained and experienced? I don't know, Danielle. And then you see, the CBS News come out with like the complete cluster F of the cleanup of Epstein's cell, right? Just complete mismanagement of the evidence. Like I've said this before, Danielle, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. I like evidence. And I especially lean away from these conspiracy theories in the past 10 years, especially as Trump and MAGA have promoted the QAnon conspiracy that had radicalized people and individuals to commit violence. Remember Pizzagate? All of it is
Yep.
part and parcel of this ecosystem. But right now, Mary Elizabeth says, "You're so pretty." Mary Liz, not to me, but to Danielle. And someone wanted to kiss Danielle, but she has a girlfriend. I think it was out of love, though. Um, Folks, it's a situation in which I think if we just step back for a second, Danielle, and this
Uh-huh.
will increase the rage. All of this has been known. For
Yes.
2 decades, all of this has been known.
Yep.
And we, the American public, the American media, American power, didn't care because we don't care about young girls being raped. We don't care
Correct.
about women being abused. Whiteness, wealth, and celebrity allows you to do everything. And Donald
Mhm.
Trump knew it. He knew it, and he was right when he said, when you're a celebrity, they let you do it. You can just grab women by the peat. There were photos of him and Trump. There were videos of him and Trump. Uh, Jeffrey Epstein, he was a pedophile, got a sweetheart deal. After he was finished with his pathetic sentence, people still sought to meet him. The files show that Bannon met him. The files show that Peter Thiel tried to meet him. Elon Musk tried to meet him. All these Harvard professors tried to meet him. All these people who wanted money met him. He still had the dinner parties, right? It was only until Donald Trump was president that Jeffrey Epstein all of a sudden was
Yep.
indicted.
I here's a question though. I do have this question, and I too am not a conspiracy theorist, and I know that we just have a couple of minutes left because I got to go prepare for another show. My question is, Waj, people have known this for decades. Both parties have known this for decades. I believe that the Epstein files is probably the most bipartisan project we've ever seen, meaning
Absolutely.
that it is not just one party's people that are involved in the trafficking and abuse of children, right? Because we say girls, but I want us to start using the word children because
Yeah.
that's what they are. Because the law states that under 18 years old, you are a child. And in my humble opinion, if you got teen after your age, you are a fucking child, right?
Yep.
Why do we think two things? One, that when Nancy Pelosi was asked about exploiting this Achilles heel of the Republican Party, why don't we exploit and use, right, the fact that the public wants to know about the Epstein files, use this to your advantage. Why did Nancy Pelosi do a pivot with Chris Jansen and say that we have more important things to worry about? That's one. Two, Joe Biden was in office for 4 years. His Department of Justice had all of this information and also had the ability to release these files because, again, right, if you understood the threat of a potential second Trump term and knew that this would be the thing that would finally bring that motherfucker down, why wouldn't the Biden Department of Justice under Merrick Garland, who we know is a useless, feckless sack of shit, why didn't the Democrat Department of Justice release these files? And my opinion, before you give your answer, is that the people that are inside of these files are at the highest points in our government. They could be justices on the Supreme Court. They could be some of the biggest donors of both parties, right? That this would solidify the fact that there is a swamp and all these motherfuckers are in it. Your thoughts?
To quote George Carlin, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And well done on that receipt because we talked about it. I think we were one of the few people who talked about it, the Nancy Pelosi in the summer. And she said, well, I just think it's just a distraction. And we're like, what the F are you talking about? What distraction? This is uh, the biggest political cover up in modern history. This is bipartisan. And in the positive way, we'll end on this so I can let Daniel go. Over 75% of Americans in
Yeah.
this divided day and age want the release of the Epstein files. Conservatives, MAGA, independents, progressives. They cannot escape this. Republicans have radicalized their base. Their base wants answers. The people want answers. And to bring it back full circle, will this be it? It has to be it. Because if this country can
Mm,
tolerate
mm,
powerful, wealthy white men raping children for years,
mhm,
and they say, meh, but you know what? He makes me feel good about myself when he
mm,
unleashes ICE. Or you know what? I like Bill Clinton. Then this country needs to burn to the ground, figuratively. We need to start over, right? Like that, my country that I was born and raised in, that I love, is morally bankrupt. My fellow countrymen are soulless, and I'm a Muslim. Like you read the Quran, read the Old Testament, God replaces people. He's like, all right, you effed up. Next. And if this is a country that allows girls to be raped and trafficked and rich, vulgar men with endless appetites to keep feasting on our children, then F this country, F
yep,
every institution that protects them, F every political party that protects them. I'm done. And I hope that, I know that might seem very blunt, but that's how I feel.
100%. I mean, I like, my God, in the world that we live in right now, where we allow ourselves to experience genocide vis-a-vis scrolling, where we allow an entire political party to weaponize food, where we allow the stupidest fucking people to be in charge of our health and well being, where we have allowed a complete and total felon to come back in and bring his crime operation back into the people's house and to physically destroy the people's house as an act of power and cruelty. If raping children and trafficking children is not the line, then America does deserve to burn. Because if you can find an excuse for this, my God, you can excuse anything. And Donald Trump's one of his first viral quotes was, if I shot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, I'd watch my poll numbers go up. This is that moment. If you know that Donald Trump and other powerful men were involved in the rape of children and the cover up for decades of that crime, and you can make excuses for that, then all bets are off, and all hope, not even all bets are off, all hope is lost.
And to going back to that quote, he said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and they'd still vote for me. Well, what happens if you said, I can rape girls with the world's most notorious pedophile for years and they'll still vote for me? All right, MAGA, let's see. All right, evangelical Christians for Trump, let's see. All right, white women, majority of them who went for Trump 3 times in a row. I know you all don't like to hear it. 45% of you, I ain't talking about you. I'm talking about the majority, the 47, the 50%. Let's see. And the establishment that bends the knee, all the oligarchs who bend the knee, Apple, YouTube that bend the knee, the Joe Rogans who bent the knee. I'm looking at you too. Are you going to side with the pedophile? And I also said this to Piers Morgan. I come on Piers Morgan's show a lot. Haven't come on in a month. I've been traveling. I said, Piers, how do you still support Trump? If he has me on, I want to ask him to his face. Folks, thank you all for watching. Danielle has to go. There's about 2,500 people watching, which might be one of our most watched midweek democracy-ish check-ins ever. Many of you, it seems, share our righteous rage. For those who have tuned in late, we have tried our best to connect the dots. We brought you the latest breaking news, and we tried our best to connect the thread. I have called this the world's the biggest political cover up in modern history. I'm going to stand by it. Danielle, what do you think? Am I being
Yeah.
hyperbolic?
Nope, I do not think that this is hyperbolic. I think that this is, I mean, just insane, the size of this cover up and the lengths that they will be willing to go to in order to protect pedophiles.
Folks who missed this will be up on my Substack and Danielle's Substack later today, probably in an hour or so. This is the Left Hook and Damn Digest. We are terrible capitalists. Everything is free. There are no paywalls. Uh, it's my parents, like every day, like literally, if I may just say this real quick, my parents are like, watch, Acosta has a paywall. Don has a paywall. Joy Reid even has a paywall in the comments section. Just come on, you're independent. Talk to Danielle. She'll be smart. I said, even Danielle doesn't have a paywall. And she's like, no,
No, I know.
I don't. So there's no paywalls. Pay what you can. If you have some money, give it to Danielle and the Damn Dad. Just be a paid subscriber. Go subscribe to her YouTube channel. I also have a YouTube channel, which I should promote. Uh, Everything's free. And if not, times are tough. Fine. Become a free subscriber. Just share this. It goes a long way. And just subscribe to our YouTube channels for free. It goes a long way. We'll be back Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time with Democracy Ish. I'm going to go run for 30 minutes so I don't die. And then I have Lev Parnas on in about an hour-ish. Danielle, how can people find you?
Yeah, folks, I'm going to be live at 5 p.m. on the Danielle Moody channel with the Danielle Moody Show, continuing this conversation as well as recent interview and clips of AOC's comments about Chuck Schumer and the fury that is building behind Chuck Schumer and the 8 Democratic senators that sold out America for absolutely nothing. We cannot call what they did a deal because a deal means that you both get things. And we got nothing.
Yeah, we got.
So you can see
We'll
me
talk about
live.
that on
Yeah.
Friday. Yeah, I forgot because Danielle was celebrating her birthday, so we didn't talk about the caving of
Oh, yeah.
Democrats. So we'll talk about that, and I'm sure all the fallout from this on Friday. Folks, watch Danielle in an hour. Everyone else who tune in, the 2,500 people, will have this up in an hour. We bring the receipts, we connect the dots. Thank you all for watching. Be kind, be informed, and please, oh please, don't
Be
be
a fast.
fashion. Bye, Danielle.